9 men, including Memphis rappers Pooh Shiesty and Big 30, are facing federal charges for allegedly kidnapping and robbing rapper Gucci Mane about a raid at a Cordova home that belongs to Pooh Shiesty's dad.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Listen, I wanted to make this announcement on 10/17 yesterday, but I just seen like my statement, my P&L with all my artists. You know, it's almost like a whole bunch of shakeup and it's a whole shit show in the industry right now. But when I look at my P&L and me being a businessman, I think that I'm gonna have to release almost all my artists except for Pooh Shiesty and Fujiano. This is a decision I didn't want to make. I thought about it, you know what I'm saying? I could keep all of them under the contract. But I said, hey, fuck it. Let's just make the unselfish decision and, let them take their talents elsewhere. So today, you know what I'm saying, I already reached out to all of my artists, you know what I'm saying, to their lawyers and whatever, and let them know that they're free to take their talents elsewhere. And I'm still looking for new talent to pair up with, you know what I'm saying, Pooh and Fu, and that's where I'm gonna put my focus. And I just wish them the best. And I just want to let everybody know that, because, hey, that's where we at.
This week, 9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas. 8 of the 9 were arrested yesterday in Dallas, Memphis, and Nashville. These individuals who are charged and arrested include Lontrell Williams Jr., also known as Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., Rodney Wright Jr., also known as Big 30, Kadarius Waters, Demarion Gibson, DeMarcus Glover, Corday Johnson, Darian McDaniel, and Terrence Rogers has not been arrested yet, but will be soon. The complaint alleges that on January 10th of this year, 3 music industry professionals traveled to Dallas for a scheduled business meeting. Lontrell Williams Jr. arranged this meeting purportedly to discuss the terms of his recording contract with one of the victims. As alleged, once these 3 men were inside the recording studio, Williams Jr. and 8 co-conspirators, several of whom traveled from Memphis, Tennessee, executed a coordinated armed takeover. As alleged, Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol and forced one of the victims to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint. The remaining conspirators displayed firearms and robbed the other victims of Rolex watches, jewelry, cash, and other high-value items. One of the victims was actually choked by one of the defendants to the point of near unconsciousness.
As we previously reported, Pooh Shiesty was arrested Wednesday by FBI in Dallas. Family home in Memphis was also raided, and his father was arrested as well.
Early on the morning of April 1st, 2026, FBI agents pulled up to a family home in Cordova, Tennessee with a federal warrant in hand. They were not there for the rapper. They were there for his father. Inside that house was a woman named Glattis Baines, who stood there and watched federal agents walk the father of her son out of her own home in handcuffs, while at that exact same moment, in a completely different state, her son was being taken into custody on the very same federal case. Both of them gone. Same morning, same charges. Armed robbery and kidnapping of Gucci Mane, one of the most legendary names in trap music history, at gunpoint inside a Dallas recording studio.
We're still working to learn the specifics in this house raid that took place here at this home in Cordova. We do know that according to the Shelby County Assessor's Office, that this home is registered to Lontrell Williams. Now, Lontrell Williams, that is the father of Pooh Shiesty, who also has the name Lontrell Williams Jr. Now, as for the specifics into this investigation, we're still working that out. We have learned that this was an official warrant that was issued for this home, a search warrant for this home. Those FBI agents, TBI agents, came to this neighborhood about 5:30 or so. People who live in this neighborhood told us that they heard flashbangs, and they also heard the shouting from the FBI agents, TBI agents, telling whoever inside of the home to come out with their hands up. Again, this happened about 5:30 or so this morning.
Action News 5 looked at the property records that indicate the homeowner is Lontrell Williams Sr., the same name as Pooh Shiesty's father. Action News 5 did speak to a nearby resident who recalled the moments the FBI arrived.
When I first came out and looked, I only saw one car by that stop sign, and two guys just standing there. The car had its headlights on, but as I said, there weren't a lot of flashers or anything like that.
And the part that makes this hit even harder? Her son had been on federal home detention when all of this went down, wearing an ankle monitor on his leg, having walked out of federal prison just 6 months before any of this happened.
And new at 6, Memphis rapper Pooh Shiesty is out of federal prison. Court records show the Memphis native, whose real name is Lontrell Williams Jr, was released from a Pennsylvania facility after serving time for a gun charge in Florida. Williams was sentenced in 2022 to just over 5 years for conspiring to possess firearms tied to drug trafficking and violent crimes. His attorney confirmed the release, saying he's eager to return to the studio and make new music.
Pooh Shiesty's story is bigger than a criminal case. It is a family story. And this is a full account of what actually happened, who was involved, how his mother responded when the world found out, and what all of this means for the people left behind. Pooh Shiesty, born Lontrell Williams Jr, was not just another rapper coming out of Memphis. His debut mixtape, Shiesty Season, dropped in 2021 and landed at number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100, with features from Gucci Mane himself and fellow Memphis artist Big 30, born Rodney Wright Jr. The streets supported him, the industry supported him, his family supported him. By 2022, however, that momentum came to a hard stop when he was taken into federal custody on a gun conspiracy charge out of Miami, facing 5 years.
Rapper Pooh Shiesty is facing prison time after pleading guilty to a gun charge in Miami federal court. The case against Lontrell Williams Jr. stems from 3 shootings during the past 2 years, 2 of them happening right here in South Florida.
Pooh Shiesty walked out of federal prison in October 2025, having served 3 years of a 5-year sentence after pleading guilty to conspiring to possess a firearm connected to crimes of violence and drug trafficking. His homecoming went viral almost immediately. Fans celebrated publicly, social media exploded, and his mother, Glattis Baines, was right there watching her son breathe free again. But that freedom came with strings attached. Federal home detention, an ankle monitor locked around his leg. Just 3 months after walking through that door, Pooh Shiesty allegedly stepped into a recording studio in Dallas, Texas, alongside 9 people, including his own father. What prosecutors say happened inside that studio that day sent ripple effects far beyond the courtroom, through hip-hop, through Memphis, and straight into his own family. Glattis Baines never got a warning. She just had to watch it unfold. To understand how everything fell apart this completely, you have to go back to the beginning. Lontrell Williams Jr. grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, a city with a sound and culture entirely its own, shaped by legends like 3 6 Mafia and built on an identity that eventually influenced hip-hop on a national level. Pooh Shiesty came directly out of that world. His mother raised him there and stayed close throughout every chapter of his career. When Gucci Mane brought him into 1017 Records in 2020, it felt like a real turning point for the entire family. His father, Lontrell Williams Sr., was present throughout, and according to federal prosecutors, far more involved in his son's activities than anyone on the outside ever knew. Then there was Rodney Wright Jr., known as Big 30, a Memphis artist who came up alongside Pooh Shiesty, collaborated with him consistently, stood by him through his incarceration, and was still right there when he came home. According to prosecutors, that unbreakable loyalty is exactly what placed Big 30 among the 9 people inside that Dallas studio on January 10th, 2026.
The terms of Pooh Shiesty's release were simple and non-negotiable. No new criminal offenses, no firearms, restricted movement. Federal authorities were watching closely. According to prosecutors, sometime during those early months of freedom, something started eating at him. His record deal. He was still locked into Gucci Mane's 1017 Records, and by all accounts, he was done with it. Sources familiar with the situation say that by 2024, Gucci Mane had quietly released most of his artists from the label, but kept 2. Pooh Shiesty was one of them, kept on that roster even while he was sitting in a federal prison cell. According to prosecutors, that contractual situation became a tension point he simply could not get past. And instead of hiring a lawyer, going through management, or using any of the legitimate channels that exist in the music industry for exactly this kind of dispute, prosecutors say he organized something else entirely. 9 people, a convoy rolling from Memphis to Dallas, a stop at a Staples office supply store, and weapons. On January 10th, 2026, Pooh Shiesty reached out to Gucci Mane personally and arranged a studio meeting on Dallas Parkway, presenting it as a chance to resolve the contract situation face-to-face. Gucci Mane agreed, flying in from Atlanta with 2 industry associates and his head of security, all of them expecting a professional sit-down. Federal investigators later determined that Lontrell Williams Sr. had visited a Staples location just hours before that meeting, where prosecutors believe he printed the contract termination paperwork that would be placed in front of Gucci Mane inside that studio. At approximately 3:43 p.m., the group entered the building. According to the federal criminal complaint, Pooh Shiesty pulled Gucci Mane aside for a private conversation and led him into the recording room, where Lontrell Williams Sr. and Big 30 were already waiting. What prosecutors allege unfolded over the next hour is described in federal charging documents as a coordinated armed takeover.
Lontrell Williams Jr. arranged this meeting purportedly to discuss the terms of his recording contract with one of the victims.
According to prosecutors, when that contract termination paperwork hit the table, Gucci Mane refused to sign. That is when Pooh Shiesty allegedly pulled out an AK-style pistol and pointed it directly at him. The same man who had brought him into 1017 Records and kept him on that roster through every day of his federal incarceration. Gucci Mane signed the documents. But the situation did not end there. Prosecutors alleged that after the signing, Pooh Shiesty took Gucci Mane's wedding ring off his finger, his watch, his earrings, and his cash. At the same time, the 6 remaining co-defendants in the outer studio area had already drawn weapons on the other 2 victims. The individual identified in the complaint as MM was forced onto a studio couch and stripped of his wallet and jewelry. The individual identified as BP was grabbed from behind, choked to the point of near unconsciousness, and then robbed of a Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag, Apple AirPods, and additional valuables. Rodney Wright Jr., Big 30, reportedly stood positioned in front of the studio door the entire time, making sure nobody left until it was over. At one point, according to the criminal complaint, the 3 victims genuinely believed they were about to be killed. They were eventually ordered out. The group left in a 2020 Dodge Chargers Hellcat in 2 rental cars, all registered or rented under Lontrell Williams Sr.'s name, and checked into a Dallas hotel that same evening. Within hours of leaving that studio, multiple co-defendants were already on social media showing off the stolen jewelry and watches to their followers. The investigation that followed built an overwhelming case, and a significant portion of that evidence came directly from the defendants themselves.
Within hours of leaving the Dallas studio, a number of the defendants were on social media displaying some of the items that appeared to be the jewelry that had been robbed from the victims.
The ankle monitor Pooh Shiesty was required to wear as a condition of his release did more than track his location. It placed him inside that studio at the exact moment the robbery went down, directly violating every term of his home detention. The federal government had been tracking him in real time and had no idea yet what he had just done. But the ankle monitor was only the beginning of the evidence. License plate reader data documented the convoy traveling from Memphis to Dallas in the days leading up to January 10th. Cell phone records confirmed that same timeline. Rental car paperwork tied Lontrell Williams Sr. directly to every vehicle the group used. Surveillance footage from the studio building, a neighboring office building, the Staples location, and the hotel where the crew stayed afterward captured everything on camera. Latent fingerprints pulled from inside the studio, including prints lifted from red plastic cups carelessly left behind, were matched to multiple defendants. And then there was the AirTag. One of the stolen wallets had an Apple AirTag hidden inside it, and its last recorded location was a parking lot directly next to the apartment building where Lontrell Williams Sr. held a lease, the same building where Pooh Shiesty had been staying. A stolen wallet led federal investigators straight back to their front door.
On April 1st, 2026, the FBI executed search and arrest warrants simultaneously. Lontrell Williams Sr. was taken into custody in Memphis. Pooh Shiesty, who had been staying at a residential re-entry facility in Dallas, was arrested there. 8 of the 9 suspects were taken into custody across Dallas, Memphis, and Nashville in a single coordinated sweep. The 9th defendant, Terrence Rogers, the one who had been on social media flexing the stolen Rolex for the whole world to see, was still at large at the time of the Department of Justice announcement. The 32-page criminal complaint was unsealed on April 2nd, and that is when the full details of what had happened to Gucci Mane inside that Dallas studio became public knowledge. The unsealing also confirmed that one of the victims, identified in the documents by his legal name, Radrick Davis, Gucci Mane, had cooperated fully with federal investigators, identifying his attacker by Instagram handle and providing a detailed account of the entire incident. Shortly after the complaint went public, 50 Cent posted online referencing Gucci Mane's street history and questioning his decision to work with law enforcement. The post was deleted quickly, but the screenshots lived on. The reaction was immediate and divided, some arguing that cooperating with law enforcement was entirely reasonable for a victim of armed robbery and kidnapping, others feeling that the reputation Gucci built carried a different expectation. Big 30's attorney, Arthur Horn, issued a statement noting that his client had no prior criminal history, that he and Pooh Shiesty had a long-standing relationship built through music, and that no one should be passing judgment before all the facts came out. He expressed hope that Big 30 would be granted bond. Every single defendant, all 9 of them, faces a maximum sentence of life in federal prison if convicted.
The person who got the least attention in all of this was Glattis Baines. On the morning of April 1st, she was home when the FBI arrived to execute the warrant. She watched Lontrell Williams Jr. get walked out of her house in handcuffs, and at that same moment in Dallas, her son, the one who had just come home from federal prison 6 months earlier to a citywide celebration, was being placed into custody. Both of them gone on the same morning in the same federal kidnapping case. She did not give interviews. She did not issue a statement. She went to Facebook. On Wednesday, she posted 4 words: "It's power in the name Jesus." Nothing about the charges, nothing about the case. On Thursday, after the DOJ press conference, after the entire internet found out it was Gucci Mane and the 32-page complaint sent social media into full meltdown mode, she posted again: "My ears ringing, keep praying, blessings on blessings," followed by a row of prayer hand emojis. Then one more: "I've been blocked, you hating folks. Amen." 3 posts, no press statement, no interview, no tears on camera. Just a mother holding her faith together while the entire world loudly dissected her family in real time. Think about everything this woman has been through. She raised a son who became one of the biggest rap artists in Memphis history. She watched him catch a federal case at the height of his career. She visited him in prison. She watched him walk out in October 2025 and come home to thousands of fans who had been waiting for him. She finally had every reason to believe the worst was behind him. And then, 4 months later, 4 months, the FBI was at her door before sunrise, taking the father of her child out in handcuffs. She handled every bit of it with prayer, silence, and a quiet defiance toward the people she felt were talking recklessly about her family. YSL Woody went on Instagram, visibly shaken, talking about watching Pooh Shiesty come home, drop music, and get sent right back before the moment even had time to settle. He said pride and ego were the real enemies, and that the cycle only stops when the mindset changes. The comments were divided, some agreeing, some defending Pooh Shiesty, some going after Gucci Mane. Clarissa Shields publicly backed Woody on X. The entire culture was reacting in real time, and Glattis Baines just posted her prayer hands and kept moving. This case has real consequences for everyone involved. For Pooh Shiesty, a man who came home with an active fan base, real industry relevance, and a second chance that most people in his position never get, a conviction now means a potential life sentence. For Big 30, who had no prior criminal record and by his own attorney's account was not the architect of any of this, the price of loyalty to one friendship could cost him his entire future. His case now sits in the hands of a federal court in the Northern District of Texas. For Lontrell Williams Jr., the father who allegedly rented the cars, printed the paperwork, and made that drive to Dallas beside his son, he went from being a father deeply involved in his child's world to a federal kidnapping defendant in the same criminal complaint as that child. And for Gucci Mane, who spent years rebuilding a legitimate legacy after his own complicated legal history, got sober, built 1017 Records into a real institution, earned a Grammy nomination, and wrote a memoir about survival, he now carries both the weight of what happened to him in that studio and the weight of what the internet said about him when he decided to cooperate. What YSL Woody said publicly is worth sitting with. The information about how far the federal government goes, ankle monitors, license plate readers, air tags, social media surveillance, is not a secret inside federal prison. None of it was new. And yet 6 months after walking out, the government's own monitoring equipment placed Pooh Shiesty at the exact scene of the crime. Today, Pooh Shiesty is in federal custody awaiting trial. His father is in federal custody. Big 30 is in federal custody fighting for bond. Terrence Rogers remained at large, and Glattis Baines is in Memphis posting prayer hands and waiting. That is the part of this story nobody will make a song about. Nobody will post about it, but it is the most real part of all of it. Mother left behind again. This is not just a story about a robbery or an ankle monitor or a deleted 50-cent post or an air tag and a stolen wallet or fingerprints on red plastic cups. It is a story about a family from Memphis. A mother who raised her son into one of the city's most recognized artists. A father so close to his son's world that he allegedly drove the cars and printed the paperwork himself. A son who came home from federal prison with a second chance the system rarely gives twice. And a Saturday afternoon in Dallas in January 2026, where according to federal prosecutors, all of it, the music, the freedom, the future, allegedly came to an end. Pooh Shiesty's last Instagram post before his arrest was a video of a new luxury car shared on March 11th.
Where the keys at too? Yeah. Pooh Shiesty, Pooh Shiesty. Emerald, 1 of 25. 322, don't play with it. Just spent a $500,000 with us. This ain't the only thing he bought. Check it out. House on wheels. Big house on wheels. Doing it big.
The
comment section is now full of people saying the feds are about to seize it. Glattis Baines is still on Facebook posting prayer hands, and the federal case is only just beginning. If this story hit different today, if you saw this from an angle you had not considered before, hit that like button and subscribe. We will keep covering this case as it develops. Every court date, every co-defendant update, every new detail from those 32 pages. We will see you in the next one.